Righto, this is what we're dealing with. This is the part we're dealing with. So the OEM bolt only ran to there. So there's a lot of meat between the end of the bolt and where my finger is that I don't know why Yamaha didn't run it right through. I suppose if you're going to strip a bolt, you're going to strip it, aren't you? But that's a lot more meat on the length of the bolt. Anyway, what we're going to do, I'm going to chuck it in the vise. The barefoot, no tools, doesn't work on this video. You're going to have to buy a tool. If you've got to buy a tool, and I went down to see my guy and he doesn't have them. So maybe if you're going to do it, you go and see your industrial supplier, and before you pull a bike apart, get them to order a 6x1 long tap. So it's 6mm because it's a 6mm bolt. 1mm is the pitch, that's the fineness of the thread. And a long tap just means that the tap, this part of the tap is longer, and it may well run right through this part of it and come out the other side. This one doesn't. So what I'm going to do is, because of the back of the holes is a smaller than the front, not much. So I'm just going to work the intermediate tap. So that's the one with the taper on the end of it. We're just going to work that in from this other end, primarily to open the hole. Technically, we should be using a bit of cutting compound. You guys don't need to buy a tin of cutting compound. WD-40 will do the same. So we're just going to run that tap in just to get it to the start, because you don't want to run it too far through this way, because you very well could be fighting the tap running that way. And even though they're both right-hand threads, you don't know where the tap started for the thread, and they might, in the middle, they might start cutting across each other. So I'm just going to run it that way to start, and then we'll come back, because I do have an end plug tap that will run the whole distance. So this part of the tap, the shank, is fatter than the tap, whereas my end plug or plug tap, I'm not 100% sure of the proper name, the shaft follows the tap through, so we can run this all the way through, and it'll also clean up your new part. But if you've stripped it to here, it may not matter that your starter cap, your starter plug doesn't run all the way through. So just use WD-40 or a lubricant spray of some description, because what you want is you want the tap to come out the other side like that, and that way that whole assembly has thread through it, so then we can buy brand new bolts to put in it, and we can buy brand new longer bolts that will use the whole length of that shaft plus the base. It's going to be a lot better. So let's rip this out of here. So the new bolt is 50 millimeters long. Now, the OEM bolts obviously have a manufactured washer on the end of them. These ones don't. If you want to run a washer down them, that's fine. Washer on them. But the idea now, you put your spring on, put your plate on top, and then it'll run down. Obviously you wash them, run your plate down, run your bolt down. Sore arm doing this. So what will happen is when everything's back together again, and it's in the bike, your bolt actually sticks out just that tiny little bit, and then everything's as it should be. And then, but yeah, so you do that 6 times. Obviously go through and wash it before you run your bolts through. You put it in the bike, make sure it's nice and clean, because you don't want those tiny, these tiny little bits of cut aluminium. You don't want them floating around inside your engine. So make sure you wash it nice and clean before you do. And yeah, problem solved. And you don't have to go buying new parts for your bike. You've had to buy a couple of tools. And the 6x1s, there are a lot of bolts on the 1100 that are 6x1. So yeah, it won't be a wasted purchase of the tap. You'll be able to use it over and over and over again all over the machine. So that's my how to fix a clutch basket with strip bolts. I guess the other way you could probably do it would be drill them out, if you've got the tools and the gear, drill them out to a different size. But why do that if that's all you've got to do? But that's my how to fix your strip bolts in your clutch basket.